By the end of this video, you're going to know how to use ChatGPT to bring in more business, higher quality leads, and more conversions without having to compete on price again. Too many business owners think the only way to attract new customers is to slash their prices. But what if I told you there's a way to position your brand as premium and getting people to say yes all the smart way with using AI? This is the exact strategy I've seen coaches, agencies, and product-based businesses use to go from discounting their offers to raising their rates confidently while working with better clients. And once you implement these strategies, you will never look at your pricing the same way. Let's jump into my first tip. It's all about your offer. Before wasting money on marketing, you need to use ChatGPT to come up with a great offer. To do this, simply feed it your ideal customer avatar and describe the product or service that you're offering. This will help you create irresistible headlines and hooks. You'll create clarity for your value proposition, and it will identify pain points and the transformational outcomes. This drives revenue because an ad that converts well multiplies your ROI, and it spreads word of mouth, and you don't have to reduce your pricing. Here's common mistakes businesses make. Most businesses think that their product or service is so good, people are going to line up around the block to purchase it. They believe that if we just talk about what we do, the customers will come. But that's not how marketing works anymore. The reality? People don't buy products, they buy offers. And a good offer is just not a list of features. It's a strategic message that creates value, urgency, and makes it a no-brainer to act now. Here's the big trap. They skip this step entirely, and then they wonder why they're not seeing conversions, or they think their ads aren't working. The problem's not the platform. The problem is their offer isn't very good. So before you change anything with your campaign, you have to ask yourself, do I have a compelling offer, or am I just talking about my product? Here's one way to think about it that you can do right now. Think about your offer and how can you create more value or a sense of urgency right now. Here's an example of how smart offers are built. Before publishing $100 million offers, Alex Hormozi tested several different variations of the title, the cover, to make sure that he had the correct messaging. He tested dozens of messages, feedback loops, and direct responses. He paid attention to the headlines that grabbed attention, which pain points sparked engagement, and which promises felt like, I need this now. That's what made his final offer so magnetic. It wasn't a theory, it was actually refined responses. Okay, so if you think that's the only thing you can do to drive sales, wait till you hear my next tip. Tip number 2 is to use ChatGPT to write a sales script that actually converts. Don't wing your sales calls. There's no reason for that. Use ChatGPT to write a custom sales script based on your product, pricing, objections, and your ideal customer avatar. You can simulate role plays, test pitch angles, and refine your language to close more deals. This directly drives business because the better your pitch, the better your close rate, without changing your offer or your pricing. Every % improvement here multiplies revenue and profits. And a big mistake businesses make here is they just talk about their offer, and that's not good enough. Most businesses will just describe their offer and think that that's enough that their audience is going to get it. They'll list the features, maybe throw out a price and just publish it. And here's the problem. They never test different scripts. They never change the messaging to see what actually resonates with their customers. And they never preempt the objections before getting on that sales call or before a visitor hits the checkout page. And then they wonder why some people say, okay, sounds interesting, I need to think about this, or they just kind of ghost them and don't ask for any information, or worse, they don't even engage at all. And the truth is that just talking about your offer does not equal selling. Here's a smarter move for you. Use ChatGPT to simulate a sales conversation and pressure test your pitch. Here's a prompt you can use. Act like a skeptical customer. I'm going to pitch you my offer. After I do, ask questions, raise objections, and tell me what's unclear or unconvincing. Then respond to it and refine it until you get a good flow. This helps you identify weak spots in your offer before you lose real prospects. And let me give you a real example here. When I used to send proposals, sometimes I wouldn't get any response at all. So instead of rewriting the proposal, I asked ChatGPT to analyze my pitch emails from the perspective of the hesitant buyer. Here's the prompt that I used. Pretend you're a small business considering my service. Read this email and tell me what feels unclear, unconvincing, or just flat out risky. What's missing that would make you trust me more? And the feedback I was getting is that my CTA wasn't strong enough and it was kind of buried. I didn't have any urgency, and I was still pitching the process, not the actual result or the payoff of moving forward. As a result, I reworked the copy to highlight the results, added a sense of urgency, and just in general simplified things. And within a week, I had calls booked. Before I get into my next tip on how to drive sales, make sure to subscribe if you want your business to do better in 2025. Tip number 3 is to turn ChatGPT into your follow-up message machine. 80% of sales happen after the 5th follow-up. Yet most businesses stop after 1 or 2 times. And a lot of times we don't know what to say. So here we can use ChatGPT to come up with a sequence of follow-up messages that will be personalized, persuasive, and we can format them for email or DMs with the whole idea to close leads over time. This drives growth because it's recovering lost revenue by warming up cold leads without spending time on generating new traffic. All right, and here's a mistake, and I am guilty of this. They'll use the term just checking in. Unfortunately, this is not a successful follow-up strategy. And what makes it worse is most entrepreneurs just really drop the ball when it comes to follow-up in general. And here's the truth. The majority of the conversation is going to happen in the follow-up, but only if it's intentional and adds value. And the problem with using the term just checking in is it feels like a task. It's not a reason for the prospect to engage. And ultimately, it signals that you need them more than they need you. So here's what you need to do instead. Use the follow-up with value tactic. So in each follow-up, you want to include a new insight about their market or their business, a short case study or a win you've had from your client, a quick takeaway from a recent article or a podcast that you heard, and a reminder of the transformation your offer creates. Here's an example. Hey, insert their name. I came across this stat on how e-commerce brands are doubling ROAS with post-purchase flows. I thought of your store, and I'm curious if your team has tried this yet. This keeps the conversation going without sounding desperate. Here's a pro tip for you. Use ChatGPT to brainstorm 5 follow-up messages tailored to your ideal customer avatar, each adding fresh value. Here's the prompt. Act like a sales strategist. I pitched this service. Describe your offer. Write 5 follow-up messages that are non-pushy, add value, and reignite interest. All right, and here's something else here that's going to help you, and this is from my own experience. If you don't get a response, that does not mean that you're not going to get the deal. A lot of people assume that silence means rejection, but here's how I think about it. If they haven't said no, I'm not done. And here's the reason. I was following up with a prospect for 10 months. I was sending an email every other week, consistently for 10 months, never got a response ever. But it was a great opportunity, and I knew that the person was busy, they could easily get distracted, and I knew ultimately that timing was everything. And the result was after 10 months, I finally got a response and they said, yep, we're ready to go, and that led to a 9-year relationship. Now let me give you a prompt to use with ChatGPT to help you with this process. Act like a client who hasn't responded in weeks. Based on this offer, describe your offer, write a 7-part follow-up sequence that adds value, stays human, and re-engages with empathy. If you like this video, you'll love my next video where I show business applications of how to use ChatGPT 4 versus 4.5.